everyone. So today's video is the tag that's been going around: 4 most important fragrances in my fragrance journey. I was tagged by Chris from the channel Fragmental. I know that you already know who he is. Thank you, Chris, for the tag, and I'm sorry it's taken so long, but here it is. Here's my 4 most important fragrances in my perfume journey. I've decided to incorporate this with my perfume journey. There's a lot of videos at the moment where people are talking about their perfume journey as a separate thing, so I'm incorporating the 2 things because it kind of makes sense. So that's where we are at. Starting off with, I'm just going to start with my scent of the day just because. So I'm wearing the beautiful Angelique from Papillon Perfumery. I'm actually wearing it to do a review, and it will be my 2nd review. I reviewed it once from a sample, now I'm reviewing it from the full bottle, just because I might pick up on some things that I didn't pick up on previously. So I am re-reviewing Angelique, and let's get on with it, shall we? So I would say as a child I was interested in fragrance and all things smelly from a very, very young age. Whenever I was in shops that sold perfumes and body creams or candles or anything with a scent, I would always smell lots and lots of things, even when I was like that big, or you know, maybe a little bit bigger. My very first earliest memory of a perfume, and in fact probably the very first perfume I owned, was my first one I'm going to tell you about in my 4. So it was Devon Violets. We were on a family holiday down, I think it was either Hastings or North Devon. Maybe we even were in North Devon, I'm not sure. But we were in a souvenir shop, and there was these frosted little frosted glass green small bottles, and I think my mum probably said, "Oh, Violet," because my mum loves violet and it's one of her favourite smells as well. So somehow I got to smell this Devon Violets and I was enchanted. I loved it. So I ended up, I think I had some holiday spending money, and I ended up using some of my holiday spending money to get a little miniature perfume bottle of Devon Violets. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to show you here. I did used to have a little miniature quite recently, but I've lost it, so it's gone, unfortunately. It can still be found. It's still in production, I'm pretty sure, so you can find it. A very simplistic, slightly sweet iris scent, but I loved it, absolutely loved it. And I remember doing little tiny dabs, just doing a little dab and smelling it and just loving it and feeling so special to smell of this lovely perfume. So that was my first one. And growing up, like a lot of youngsters, when you don't have your own income, you tend to smell of the things that other people buy you for Christmas and birthday, or what you can afford your limited pocket money to go on. So sort of before I hit teens, I think I was more into body sprays, like your typical impulse body sprays. And I don't remember particularly loving them, but it was almost like an essential item of a teenager. You had to spray a body spray. So I guess I just wasn't that interested in fragrances for a short time. And then everyone was wearing the Body Shop's Dewberry, and I think I had 1 bottle of Dewberry, and it's a very fruity, very childlike scent. You can imagine, you can see why children like that scent. Very red, fruity, sweet scent. And I think I had 1 bottle, and I found it actually quite annoying, and everyone was wearing it around me as well. So I moved on to White Musk, which was much cleaner, less invasive, less obvious, and I really enjoyed. If I had the money, or if I was due a birthday present, I would ask for White Musk shower gel and body lotion, as well as the White Musk spray perfume. And I'm not sure if there was a body spray, but I really loved White Musk for quite a long time in my late childhood, early teens, I guess. A lot of other kids were also wearing White Musk, and there was Exclamation by Coty. That was really popular amongst my friends, and I definitely had at least 1 or 2 bottles plus a body spray of Exclamation, and I really want to go and find it and see how it smells to me now. But I did really enjoy Exclamation. I remember a lot of my friends had a fragrance called So with an exclamation mark, so it was SO, an exclamation mark, and it was a red bottle, but I didn't really like that one, so I never owned that, but that was going around at the time of Exclamation. But the next fragrance that I'm going to mention as my number 2 in my important fragrances is really a kind of a coming of age of me coming out of those cheap generic scents that everybody else was wearing, and I was kind of a little bit before my time, and I had Eternity. So I'm not entirely sure how I discovered it, but I always used to smell everything, always, if I'm in duty free, if I'm in Boots, if I'm in a department store, I always smell everything. If I saw something I've never smelt before, I made the point to smell it. And Eternity had come out probably about a similar time that I bought the bottle, or I'm not sure if I bought it or if I asked for it for Christmas or birthday. At the time it was very expensive. It would have been about £50 for a bottle, and £50 went a long way back then. Not quite as it's not the same as it is today, I'm sure you can imagine. And Eternity these days, you can find it at discounters for much cheaper, but back then it was brand new or fairly new, and it was Calvin Klein, which was a very sought after, well loved brand at the time. And I just loved Eternity. I thought it was so grown up, so sophisticated. Look at me wafting around with my £50 a bottle fragrance, and it just gave me that feeling of being, I guess, better, being more grown up, pretending I was better off than I was, perhaps because I was wearing an expensive fragrance, even though my clothes all came from the market. But I didn't care because I was smelling of Eternity, and Eternity took me into the point that I started going out into pubs and things. So yeah, age 15 or 16. Now I think I started wearing Eternity around the age 16, 17 mark, and this was the point that I started going out into pubs and clubs, and the law was a lot more, not the law, but the enforcement of the law was a lot laxer those days. So as girls that can put makeup on and high heels on, generally speaking, you can get away with drinking in pubs from sort of 15, 16 really, if you could sort of make yourself look a bit older. So this was about the time I was going out. This was when the smoking ban had not been put into place. It's many years prior to the smoking ban. So I always remember I'd go into the pub, everybody around me would be smoking, the whole place filled with smoke, and I had my Eternity on, and it was really strong, this fragrance. I think it's obviously gone through quite a few reformulations, but back then it was definitely projecting really well. And I remember sort of I'd wake up the next day, usually with a mild hangover, and I would be able to smell all the smoke in my hair, because my hair collects smells, like you can imagine. My hair collects smells. I'd wake up and the hair around me, I'd be like, oh. But then as I moved, I would smell Eternity. So Eternity not only accompanied me through my evenings out, and it was definitely just a night out or special occasion fragrance, not something I would have worn to work or just hanging around the house. I didn't do that back then, so it was only nights out really, or maybe like a special lunch or something. So but I'd wake up and the scent of Eternity was so strong that I'd smell it along with the scent of the smoke on my hair, and usually feel quite a bit nauseous. And Eternity sometimes, even the next day, would then last through the shower as well. It was literally mental how well that fragrance survived on my skin. Really strong. I'm sure it won't be the same these days. The next one I would say is sort of an important landmark, is me deciding I wanted to smell different. So Eternity gave me grown up feeling, but then of course everyone was catching up, earning their own money, and people were wearing more expensive designer fragrances around me as well. And then I kind of, sniffing through, I think I was going on a family holiday through an airport, sniffing through an airport duty free, and I found a fragrance called Sculpture, and I'd never seen it before. And it was really interesting because it sat in its own little stand, sort of like bottom down. It sat in the stand, I think it sat in the stand this way. So the stand was like royal blue, and it sat in the stand like that. This miniature is spoiled because it has a celery note, which definitely was not present in the original. But when I saw Sculpture, it just looked so different to everything else. I had to smell it. And then when I smelt it, it was very loud, very spicy, completely different to anything I'd ever worn before. And to me, it smelt, again, it smelt rich, and it smelled a little bit like, I'm not one of the crowd, I'm a leader, not a follower. It just had this difference to it, something unusual that I'd never smelt before. So I had to get it. So I ended up going through several bottles of Sculpture because no one else had it. No one else around me had it or knew what it was. And even now, even though this is slightly spoiled, there is this gorgeous, creamy, spicy, sexy thing about it. It's definitely, I'd say it's a bit blousy. It's definitely a loud fragrance, but I loved it. And it just, for me, it's the pinpoint of the point in my life that I knew I needed to smell different from everyone else. I knew that I didn't want to wear what other people were wearing. And even though it's not niche, there wasn't many people wearing it. If I wanted to buy another bottle, I used to have to hunt it down. It wasn't easy to find. So I really did love Sculpture, and actually I quite like it now. I think it's a Lang Ylang. I don't even know what the notes are, but it's a floral. It's kind of exotic, but it's very spicy at the same time. It's gorgeous. So Sculpture, it was, to me, it was like a turning point of that's me now. I'm not going to smell like anyone else. So I've got through quite a few bottles of Sculpture. Another one that's not, I would say not the most important, but I'm going to mention it, was Eau de Moschino. And I definitely went through a few bottles of that as well, because that smelt different as well. Very sweet, extremely sweet. But I remember wearing it and thinking, yeah man, I'm rocking this, you know. And I quite liked, because it was quite sweet and in a way quite girly, but I liked rocking it with a leather jacket or sort of like clunky, chunky shoes or something that was a little bit leaning gothic, because it was like, I like the juxtaposition of something quite sweet. It was still really loud. It was a very loud fragrance. But I walked around thinking, you probably fancy me, don't you? Because of how I smell. I literally, honestly, it gave me that confidence. And sorry, I'm smelling Sculpture again. And I definitely went for a few bottles of that, and I'm going to try and chase a bottle down. It is now discontinued, but I want to chase a bottle down because it's just memories, really good memories. But it's not my most important. Number 4, the most important, fourth most important fragrance on my list here is, it was initially called Urura's Tokyo Cafe, and now it's called Tokyo Spring Blossom. And basically this is a fragrance that led me down the rabbit hole into niche. So if we're going, not going that far back in time now, somewhere around the 8 years ago mark, about the point I got into niche, was it all started with me. I wasn't happy in my job. I worked for the police. We'd had pay cuts, we'd had our breaks decreased, and everyone was stagnating. We didn't have enough staff. It was a really hard job to do your job and not get in trouble, because you had so many balls to juggle, and things inevitably go wrong when you don't have enough staff or police officers to deal with stuff. So it was a really tough job with all the cuts came in. I think some of you may remember in the UK around about 8 years ago or so ago, Theresa May cutting massively the budget for the police and other emergency services, and it was a really tough time at work. And I was really stagnating and thinking about what I should do instead. And I thought, I've got quite a good nose. I really am quite good at picking out scents and sniffing things out, not just fragrances, but you know, whatever people are cooking in the microwave. I can tell you from sort of quite a distance someone's let one off. I'll be the first one to tell you. But I've always felt that I had quite a good strong sense of smell, so I actually googled what job should you do if you have a strong sense of smell, and one of the options of course was a perfumer. And I kind of looked into that a little bit more. I saw that it's really tough to get into it, and still it made me think, and I thought I wouldn't mind playing around with some materials though, just for my own personal use, because and I went back to my love of violet, and I thought I'd love to make something with violet. I wonder how you get violet. Is there an essential oil? So I started Googling, and I came across a blog by Sarah McCartney on her website, 4160 Tuesdays. She'd written a whole blog about violet, and I learned that you don't get violet from flowers. It's pretty much impossible, or if you do, it's really hard and not cost effective. You actually use various ionones, ionone A, ionone B, and other variants of the ionone. So I learned about that, and while I was on the blog, I understood that that Sarah McCartney enjoyed violets herself. I guess that's why she was writing about it, and I think she referenced some of the fragrances that she does with violet. So then I saw that you can get samples, and I mean that's really how my whole niche world opened up, because I ordered samples, then I started researching online, and before you know it, I found YouTube reviews, and I found Facebook groups and bloggers, and basically the whole world of the fragrance community was there in front of me, and I had to get involved. I was already on YouTube. I was reviewing some skincare products and just doing bits and bobs, makeup and skincare. The story of how that started is going to take too long, so if you're interested I will do another video on that. But I was already on YouTube, and then suddenly my focus just shifted onto fragrances, and the whole world opened up. But the fragrance that I'm talking about here, it's Tokyo Spring Blossom is the name now. It's got violet in, which is obviously why I loved it and why I sought it out, but it has some raspberry and it has some grapefruit, so it's kind of fresh and vibrant and uplifting, a little bit sweet with this gorgeous violet note, and I just loved it. And I also loved loads of from the samples I got from 4160 Tuesdays. So I really kind of owe the rabbit hole of niche opening up to me is all down to Aurora's Tokyo Cafe, aka now known as Tokyo Spring Blossom by 4160 Tuesdays. So I consider that a very important fragrance in my life. And just a couple of other fragrances of note that I'm not making the top spots, that I've already covered those, but a couple of other fragrances that are really important to me in my life, ones I got through quite a few bottles of, was Stella Rose Absolute. Prior to it being reformulated, it was my favourite fragrance ever. It overtook everything else. Beautiful, strong, rich rose fragrance with some backbone of woods, maybe a bit of patchouli, I can't remember. I just knew that I smelled bloody amazing when I wore it. I got compliments. It was my perfect night out fragrance. It was my special fragrance, and I loved it. But then it got discontinued, and it was many years before it came back. And when it did come back, it just wasn't the fragrance I remembered. I didn't know about reforms back then. I do now, so almost certainly it was reformulated. But I've just found actually something that almost hits that same spot for me. So I've just taken delivery of this yesterday, Elie Saab's Rose Essence #1 Rose, and that is giving me some Stella vibes, so I'm really loving that one. So full review will be coming up soon. I've just filmed a first impressions. Other fragrances I loved was Clarins did one called Eau de Jardin. Eau de Jardin is in the it's like a green and orange, kind of like multicolored bottle, mostly greens and oranges, very fresh, fruity, floral, but lovely. I remember getting quite a strong compliment on it, and I wore it on a night out which to me now, I never wear such a fragrance on a night out. I would consider it not loud enough, not rich enough, not strong enough. But yeah, I got a really strong compliment on that, because it is a little bit unusual. Again, it's not like everything else. If you're looking for something zesty and fresh but a little bit different, and I think it's unisex as well. Claren's Eau de Jardin was massive for me. I got through quite a few bottles. Another one was Daisy Oh So Fresh. I got through a few bottles of that. I wouldn't really wear it now. It's maybe just a little too girly, a bit too common, but I loved it, and that has a bit of violet in it as well, so that's probably why I loved it so much. They're really the main fragrances that are featured in my perfume journey. So now I'm going to tag some people. So I would like to tag Lola from Lola Scents, and I would also like to tag Ouch110 Thomas. I know you're a busy boy, but I'd love it if you could take your time to do this video. And finally, I want to tag everyone that entered the Robes08 reviewer contest. I know lots of you have already done it, but I've seen a few of you that have not. So I'm tagging you all. You're tagged. Please do the video if you have the time. I think it's a really nice topic, and it's a great way for everyone to get to know you a little bit better. So that is it. Thank you so much everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next video.